whilst we are on it, others will join us. So once again, we thank you and welcome you all to the Rastafari Reason. Tonight is again another reasoning time, and our speaker for tonight is our esteemed president and chair of the RCC. That's the Rastafari Continental Council chair, and also doubles as the president of RCG, in the person of Aumba Bosco Okansi. We popularly call Daddy B or Daddy Bosco. He will be dealing with the topic, the RCG Constitution. And so without saying much, I'll invite Daddy B to lead the conversation. I thank you all. But before he does that, I want to remind us that the purpose of the Rastafari Reasoning is to discuss, consult, and act together in focused exchanges of ideas, thoughts, views, knowledge, to comment on specific problems, and air considered views on courses of action to best follow in dealing with the world. To help us come to terms with history, politics, economics, education, and etc. So we don't repeat past errors as Rastafari. And instead of always trying to catch up with the world, the Rastafari Reasoning seeks to stimulate creative thinking. With that being said, I'll hereby invite Daddy B to lead the conversation. Thank you all.
Greetings.
My Lord, Daddy B, please.
Greetings.
Greetings, Daddy B.
Rastafari greetings, my Lord.
So, give thanks for this opportunity to reason about the works of Rastafari, particularly to do with the Constitution of the Rastafari Council of Ghana. Earlier this afternoon, I was having an interview in Shirai FM, and I was telling the host and the listeners by extension that the current generation of Rastafari, especially in Ghana, is a pioneering generation. And why do I say that? So this generation is the generation that has the responsibility of carrying on the work of the forebears in Jamaica on the continent. So on the island in Jamaica, there's the first generation of elders, Percival Howell, etc., coming through to the likes of Mortimer Plano. And so this current generation of Dr. Jalani and Miguel Lon and co have a blueprint to work off. For us here in Ghana, yes, we have the experiences of the brethren in Jamaica, the Caribbeans, and the diaspora to lean on and tap into. However, this generation happens to be, by and large, the first generation that has to say, apart from the traditional mansions we've inherited, which is EWF, 12 Tribes of Israel, Nyabingi, Bobo, and co. How do we, within our African context, and particularly the Ghanaian environment, fashion out a course of action that will enable I and I achieve or further the aims and aspirations of the forebears, particularly repatriation and of late reparations that has come into the Ghanaian conversation. So it is within this backdrop that the Rastafari Council Ghana was formed in 2009, excuse me, with clearly set out aims and objectives in the Constitution. Now, from 2009 to now, it's a period of over 16 years. And times have changed. It's important. The Constitution, just like His Majesty promulgated the first Constitution and then had to review and amend it again, I believe it's in the same breath that the Rastafari Council Ghana's Constitution needs to be reviewed. And so, and I give thanks to Brother Seven Fireside and Royal Moses and all the ones that contributed to framing the reviewed Constitution. I hope ones and ones have gone through it. Can I know who's gone through it?
I have.
I mean, apart from Seven Fireside and what you call it, Royal. Rasejo.
I have no.
Sorry, my lord. I don't have a copy. I'm not privy to that yet.
Oh, Royal, please, can you upload it? But I believe ones and ones have gone through the, what you call it, the current one.
Good evening. Yeah, my lord, I'll share it right out.
Yes,
Give
my lord.
thanks. I think I should have even reminded you or asked you about it, because then it will make the conversation more meaningful. You see me?
My lord,
But
sorry, please, that question again.
I was saying that I should have asked you earlier
Yes.
if you had shared it for ones and ones to, you know, familiarize themselves with what it is.
Yes, we have shared it earlier on the platform, but I'm not sure once saved it. So I'll share it again on the platform right now.
Okay, please do. So for the current Constitution as we have it, it clearly states the aims and objectives and other principles, etc. The current one, or the proposed one, also does a few things, or is largely like the, what you call it, current one. Basically, it's been reformatted and reordered, and the article numberings, I think it's one extra article, or no, two extra articles that have been added to the proposed one. So basically what I'll do is I'll dwell on the distinct differences, the departures, and the implications. And then, yeah, basically that's what I'll do, and then we'll have a conversation. And there's also, based on the Constitution as we have it now, and the proposed, a number of steps that we could take so that possibly at conference next year in Kumasi, we can adapt this new one and then take it from there. I believe that would be quite a reasonable approach to doing this work on the Constitution. Now, having said that, I'd also like to, before I go into the meat of what I'm going to say, applaud the team once again for the work they've done, particularly on the Constitution because there's a certain depth that has been added to it. And I believe in the course of my presentation, it would be clear. I actually just got home from a visit to African Star, and the 76-year-old man is real excited to be in Ghana at this time because he says if he looks at the news or he watches the news and sees the developments going on in the West, he's glad to be here in Africa. Because for him, he believes that just like the saying goes, 10,000 careless Ethiopians shall be caught up in Babylon. So, once again, greetings and welcome. And I'll look at the current constitution. I believe everybody's gone through it largely. And then I'm hoping that in the course of this conversation, ones and ones can glean the proposed one, and then we can either set a date for inputs after ones and ones have looked at it comprehensively, and then we can agree on what we'll present to conference next year. Like I said, the current one is more a Ghana-focused one. It sets out, the scope, governance, etc. And the preamble looks at effecting unity, solidarity, and development in Africa, and then envisions representation to government, and then the Rastafari community. It sets out the name, aims, objectives, scope, headquarters, eligibility. And one of the key points of departure is with regards to the eligibility, where officers must represent Rastafari groups, be council members, and hold an account with the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union. At the time of writing this constitution, the credit union was in operation. And then it also mentions the need to be non-partisan. Once you're affiliated to a party in active service, you cannot hold office if it's conflicting. Then Article 2 looks at membership, and then there's a general assembly, and then the criteria for joining. That's if you're an organization. You have to have a constitution, a certain minimum number of members, and then an account with the credit union and a specific headquarters. And then the application is vetted by the membership committee and the executive committee approves. It also says that the council reserves the right to reject applications. Then there are the fees and dues. Fees are 100 for organizations and then 50 for individuals to register. An annual dues, 100 for organizations and 120 for individuals. Then Article 3 talks about the conventions, elections, and then meetings. And according to this version, it says every 3 years we have on 2nd November a convention where we hold elections. Unfortunately, over the past 16 years of our existence, we haven't held a single election. It also sets out the term limits. So me like this now, I'm like a Mugabe. I've been here forever. And we need to look at these things. Article 4 talks about the committees, that's the commissions, the various standing committees and commissions, the executive, then we have the banking, membership, education, publicity, information, fundraising, etc. One of the significant changes proposed in the new one is the replacement of the banking and fundraising with the economic commission. And when I get to that one, I'll talk about what are the significant differences. The current constitution also defines roles for executive positions. However, the new one, the proposed one, goes into some more elaborate details. Article 5 talks about impeachment. Article 6, the various commissions. Article 7, the observance of the holy days. And it proposes that the council coordinates the Rastafari feast days and significant commemorations. That is Ethiopian Christmas, Adjua Victory Day, which we mark with the conference, Empress Menen's birthday, which the Women's Commission from time to time observes. And then July 23rd is Majesty's birthday and Coronation Day, etc. Article 8 talks about amendment, and it lays out how amendments should be done. With the proposed constitution, it also sets out a simple process to amend. The current one requires a 2/3 majority of the General Council vote to amend. The proposed one looks at it differently, and I think, gives the Executive Council that power to amend the Constitution. And then it closes with the bylaws, which is the order of business, and it lays it out how order of business has to be conducted. With the proposed one, it establishes the council as a Pan-African international list body aligned with the Rastafari Continental Council to advance unity, liberation, repatriation, and African development. And it defines the objectives, principles, the symbols, scope, membership, leadership, the governance structures and procedures for elections, meetings, and amendments. With the preamble and the objective, this new, the proposed one is clear. It affirms allegiance to Haile Selassie I, His Imperial Majesty, and a commitment to African liberation, repatriation, and Pan-African solidarity. It front loads this. In the other one, it's in the current one, it's should I say quite silent. However, in this one, it puts it there in the preamble. And then it lays out the objectives, which include the unity of Rastafari in Ghana and abroad, engagement with governments and global bodies, repatriation, resources, youth development, and knowledge building events for the advancement of Africa. Then it deals with principles and symbols. It states the core principles, the Pan-African orientation, a proactive engagement, and then collective responsibility. And then a leadership that is, both practical and experienced, grounded in knowledge. And then another significant thing is in the scope, it mentions the council as a branch of the Rastafari Continental Council, and that it's operating within Ghana and on continental and international platforms. To membership and leadership, it's open to all Rastafari, affirming Haile Selassie's Imperial Majesty Kedemawi and contributing to collective goals. So that leadership is drawn from mansions, individuals, etc. Whereas in the current one, it seems it's more mansion oriented. Article 1 details the General Assembly composition, the organizational membership criteria, similar to the first one, registration with the appropriate authorities, a constitution, a minimum of 25 members, a Ghana-based headquarters, and then it maintains the joining fees. For me, I think the joining fees and the monthly dues are things we need to look at. And then it also sets the conventions, affirms the 2nd November for a triennial convention. It also stipulates that the Electoral Commission should have a chair, deputy secretary to govern the elections, which should be by secret ballot and a simple majority to determine who occupies what office. It also states the term limit is 3-year terms, 2 consecutive terms, possible a 1-year extension in time of crisis. And then it talks about the meetings and quorums, affirming again, as in the current one, that there should be at least 36 meetings for every triennial season. That is 33 meetings for 3 years, and at least an executive meeting before the general meeting. And then it goes to Article 3, where it talks about the committees and commissions. It states the standing committees or commissions, executive membership, and here it proposes an economics commission, and then a youth commission, and international relations, which are new additions to the current list of what you call it. The interesting thing is the Economics Commission is a blend of the fundraising and the banking commissions. And then it spells out the specific mandates for each commission. For example, the Economics Commission is to look at funding and job opportunities, the advocacy, continue with government engagement, education, to deal with materials and programs, and then the international relations, which is a new addition for global linkages. Then Article 4 talks about discipline, resource management, and dissolution. And then it states that discipline or disputes should be mediated by a complaints and grievance commission. And if it's unresolved, escalated to the executive committee. Repeated indiscipline can also lead to suspension or expulsion. Article 5 looks at the resources, that is the materials, intellectual property, funds, etc., are deemed as collective property. And this is where the Economics Commission will play an oversight role to ensure transparent management of resources. Article 6 talks about dissolution, and it says it requires a unanimous decision of all member mansions organizations for the dissolution to occur, and then debts are settled, assets distributed to allied Pan-African or Rastafari community organizations, and the dissolution must be documented. Article 7 talks about the observance of holidays, affirming the earlier or the current constitution's idea of coordinating the celebrations. And then Article 8 deals with amendments. And then we have the order of business in Article 9. And then we have the order of business laid out as is conducted in business conference, etc. So this is a snapshot of the two constitutions as we have them. For the next 15 or so minutes, what I'll try and do is look at any distinct departures between the two, and then possibly propose a few things. So if that's okay by the House, then I will proceed. Is that okay?
Yes, my lord.
Give thanks. So the first point I'd like to look at is the global orientation of the new one. The current one looks like it's framing the council more as a Ghana-centered scope, operating in Ghana with some foreign outlook as and when necessary. The proposed one, however, looks at an expanded Pan-African view, and it clearly positions RCG as a branch of RCC within a broad Pan-African framework, an international mandate, and proposes proactiveness. So I think that's the basic departure, where it front loads the fact that our international linkages are foundational in whatever we do. Then when you look at the preamble, the current one focuses on unity, justice, etc. About our engagement with the diaspora, but Ghana focused. The new preamble actually foregrounds our allegiance to His Majesty and clearly demonstrates a Pan-African agenda, and also our alignment with RCC. So I think here is also the clear Pan-African focus of the proposed one. When it comes to membership and leadership, our current constitution requires leaders to be reps of mansions and organizations. However, the proposed one, if I read it clearly, allows for leadership not just from mansions, but individual Rastafari, notable brethren and elders. And what it does is the emphasis on affirmation of His Majesty as the key determinant of leadership and membership. So I think this is where there's a departure, where the new one broadens the membership outlook. In terms of governance and elections, the current one looks at the 3-year cycle driven by an electoral commission supervising the elections, and then by elections if there's a vacation of office, and it caps tenure of office at 3 years with 2 consecutive terms. With the new one, it has a similar 3-year thing, but it seems to be more formalized. And then the Electoral Commission also has clearly indicated nomination timelines of 1 month, and also procedures for installing the officers, which I think is proposing being linked to the General Assembly sessions. I think the basic point of departure is this one. The proposed one is a bit more detailed in how to handle the elections and things like that. When you look at the various committees and how they work, the current constitution has the executive, the banking, membership, education, publicity, fundraising, welfare, information, auditing, complaints and grievances, Collective Security, Women's Commission as the commissions. The proposed one adds Economics Commission and then looks at the work of the Advocacy Commission. It adds International Relations Commission, Youth Commission, and then Cultural Commission. And there's a suggestion that all the committees work closely in coordination. And if one goes through the detailed constitution, you'd see. So here too, it is the introduction of new commissions and then what appears to be more formalization of the work of the commissions and how they link with the economics of our situation. And then also the fact that this one looks at, I think, a greater amount of donor engagement, engaging with donor agencies, and the need for us to have our books right and be able to measure up to the standards of these donor organizations and individuals and philanthropists. And then when you look at how we manage our resources and how we dissolve the organization, once again, the Banking Commission, which oversees banking, etc., has been realigned in the Economics Commission. And the idea is to strengthen resource governance by foregrounding economics and things like that. And also, the key role the Economics Commission has to play in, as it were, providing job opportunities or unearthing these job opportunities. I think one or two last things I like to talk about these differences or points of departure are amendments and bylaws, where the current constitution requires 2/3 majority of a general council vote to amend. The proposed, proposed amendments suggest that a written proposal to the executive committee and then 2/3 approval will then allow for the amendment, and then it should be published basically. I think it's in the procedural language, let me put it that way, that you can see some subtle differences, because this one is proposing the proposed constitution is laying more, or is suggesting more formalized ways through the executive committee. And then the last area that there seems to be some form of departure or something is in the area of conflict resolution and discipline. The current constitution says or proposes impeachment for unbecoming behavior. And then the process is the Complaints and Grievances Committee handles the case, and then it escalates to the Executive Committee. And then if there's a ground for sanction, which could be expulsion or suspension, then it's dealt with. With the proposed constitution, discipline and conflict resolution has like a clear way to be addressed with the Complaints and Grievances Committee or Commission dealing with it, and then it's moving to the, Executive Committee. I think the most significant difference is that the proposed constitution allows for a more, because it's looking at governance comprehensively, it allows for discipline and governance matters to be dealt with in I believe a proper manner. So, beloved brethren and sistren, these are some of the, what you call it, points of departure, if I may say so, between the current constitution and the one we're operating with, which I'll say has not been used by and large. I think we've picked bits and pieces of the current one and used it, and the proposed one should not go through the same, how should I say, you should not go through the same process. Give thanks. So let me take a pause here, and then beloved brethren and sistren can engage, give thanks. Royal.
Yes, my Lord, give thanks. We give thanks for that presentation, bringing to light the content of the old and the proposed or the current constitution we are seeking to work with. At this stage, we'll be happy if any. We are inviting the conversation. We are inviting ones to join the conversation now. Questions, comments. One thing I also observe, if I'm allowed to say, that is the fact that the old constitution, as I observed, didn't factor in the role of the administrator. And I noticed the new one factors in, adds the administrator to the team of executive members. And so that is one observation I made. But I know I see that the current one is grounded, have some relationship with, or focus just lies on a Pan-African Rastafari orientation. That's how I see it. That it seeks to give a Pan-African identity to the works of Rastafari, as we are doing here in Ghana. Yeah, that's the little point I wanted to make.
You mean the proposed one?
Yes, please. The proposed one.
It's actually very explicit in that fact. And like I indicated in the preamble, it has front loaded it beautifully. It says, "We the Rastafari in Ghana, in recognition of our shared responsibility to advance the unity, liberation, and development of African people globally, establish this constitution for the Rastafari Council of Ghana, RCG. We affirm our allegiance to His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, which is absent from the current one, and our commitment to the principles of African liberation, repatriation, and Pan-African solidarity. The RCG functions as a proactive Pan-Africanist and internationalist organization operating as a branch of the Rastafari Continental Council and in synergy with like-minded Rastafari bodies worldwide." And so it's clear from the get-go what our position is. Give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks, my Lord. Please, any comments, questions?
Well, give thanks to the item. Give thanks for each and every one. I just want to say give thanks to the item for first of all, putting forward the Constitution, and secondly, revising it to make sure that it is in line with the time. So, whilst I've not seen it yet, I'm looking forward to checking it out. But I think it's a positive step, and also in the right direction. So, give thanks to all who sat down and put pen or computer and worked on this. So I give thanks. Rastafari.
Selassie,
So much.
if I may,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
come
No, please go
through.
ahead. No, finish your point.
Oh, I was just going to elaborate on the Economics Commission. Like I said, that is an addition to the lineup of what you call it, of commissions, and its mandate is clear: to facilitate job opportunities and guarantee financial stability for RCG projects, ensuring funds never obstruct progress. And one of the exciting things is create a database of funding sources and engage in fundraising, economic ventures, marketing, and grant writing. And this is quite significant because it means if this commission is able to execute its mandate, it will be like a game changer for the council. Give thanks.
Thanks, Manche. So I have a question. I mean, these things look okay on paper, right? They look okay on our screens. But you said something earlier about the first one. I think people have the Constitution, but know they use them, right? So what we go to do with this time, we go use some, because maybe we have to address that. What makes it possible for the organization to have a constitution and it's not being used, right? If it's it's a stance, so to speak, right, where people feel they can function without this thing, then we have to look at it and address urgently too. If this should mean anything, and then also I'd love very much to learn from your insights. What particular difficulties that come up when kind of like keeping things going? I've seen things like we're looking at numbers. There should be a certain number of people to come to certain decisions and all that. Looking at the manpower availability thing, I think say maybe if you have anything you want to say about it, do those numbers have to be fixed? Like there's a place where we're talking about 25 people have to be on board as membership before we go to move forward. Are these numbers going to be fixed or fluid? Right. I'm just thinking of how we can be functional without saying, oh, because of this thing on paper, we know if we do it. Right. Where the team be say the team for be done. And I think the way you mentioned Mugabe, I remember saying most of the African leaders, when they sustain something, they did that way they do things for a long time. His Majesty, prime example, number one, right? Yes. So some of these situations where it require you know, consensus, so to speak, right? We also have to have something in place where, and I think that you're pretty good at it. I know to say sometimes you wait for input and it's not coming, and then you make an executive decision. We need to be oriented that way because maybe not everyone is feeling the urgency of the situation. You know, so we need moments where, yes, we can have all these things in place, but you can call some shots because you know, the buck stops there, and if things are not okay, it's your burden, you know. And one little thing too that tripped me up a little bit was I noticed there were some conflicts online. You know, people using abusive language and things like that, and all I noticed was what people were telling people to calm down and things like that, which to me sounds like there's no structure, right? For someone to feel it was okay to keep, you know, stepping out of line in terms of language, right? I think that should not be happening, right? So, I mean, there's a grievances facility in there. I think it has to be addressed, and I think maybe it wouldn't take too much for people to be to understand that these are no-go areas, and if anyone starts that, this is what happens. It should be very clear, you know, because it affects how the body works together. You know, so I was just thinking that I mean, I was thinking of you when I was reading some of those things, and I was like, what is keeping Daddy B from, you know, sanctioning someone? You know, I know you're patient, measured leader, you know, but I think that um, the cost of tolerating those things sometimes outweigh the the value of the patience that we have for it. Am I making any sense?
Yes, I.
Yes, yes. So I think that should be a very serious. I mean, just about a lot of things will have to come down to taking some very um, okay, taking measures, you know, acting on things with that sense of urgency. So at least things are clear that, you know, this is how we're moving and this is how we're not moving, you know. That's a little bit I want to say. And initially you said you wanted to talk about certain things, certain exceptions you wanted to bring up, or, you know, certain extensions you wanted to, you know, introduce. And I'm very interested in hearing some of those things. You mentioned RCG being a branch of the RCC this time around, but I got a sense that maybe branch is not the best term, but we can discuss it, because personally I feel like the RCG is meaningless until it's linked to a continental body. That's my personal position. You know, all these problems we're facing, if we want to address it on the Ghana level, you know, like we just said of the brother in Gambia, if we want to, it's too pedestrian. You know, we have to go through this, and then now before we're going to go through that, you know, it's fractured. Make people write something from Cote d'Ivoire, make people write something from here. No, we go straight. It's a continental problem. We function like that. The nation state bound organizations can do their things, but everything is tied directly. Everything we do is tied directly to the continental body. One, there's a clout advantage thing, you know, and also the unity thing where they talk about is by functioning as a body where unity to happen, not just by, you know, wearing the same colors and using the same words, you know, and listening to the same music. So Daddy B, please give us some take on it, you know, what you think has to be modified, and why you think we are not able to apply some of these ideas, though we have documents, so to speak, you know, and whatever you want us to really think about to make this thing real.
Give thanks. Give thanks. So, where I mentioned the branch in the current or in the proposed one under scope, it says the Rastafari Council of Ghana is a branch of the Rastafari Continental Council. It operates within Ghana as part of the African and global Rastafari movement. The council's purview extends across continental and international platforms where African unity and liberation are the focus. So, if the wording may not be appropriate, then we can look at that specific text. There
So
are.
can you just, it would be nice to
Yeah.
just tell us what you think of the implications of being a branch and then the implication of being a member. Which one do you think really speaks true to the vision, where we're going, what we want versus what we,
Okay, so
yeah.
since the council is what you call it, is the Continental Council is made up of member, what you call it, states. Let me put it that way. Member would be a bit more appropriate. I don't know.
Okay, we can
If
start with that.
it
Actually,
were,
after you told me I've modified it to member, we've
yeah,
modified it to member. But we really want to hear, the implications, please.
it's just that usually branch would be associated more with like commercial enterprises, a branch of the bank, a branch of GPRTU, whereas with a council, it would be a member of the council, you know. And then I noticed that we had left out treasurer from the executive lineup. So maybe we would have to clarify whether the financial secretary would be playing the treasurer role, or we would clearly distinguish the treasurer. However, let me come to the earlier question you asked about why the constitution is not used. And I believe there should be an open discussion amongst us. However, from my point of view, the council has gone through various phases where I think our leadership hasn't been very stable. It's been quite fluid, not allowing for consistency. I believe one of the ways we can ensure this proposed constitution post conference works would be to ensure that and so let me say this before I go. You see, we have Bridging and Sistering, who I believe can deal with the work, but they may not be in Accra. And so I believe we will have to look at the, should I say, the leadership in such a way that we're able to leverage technology to do the work, so that distances should not be like an obstacle. And then we get, for example, let me say this. When Mauli was in Accra and he wasn't on campus at Winneba, he was boots on the ground. Before that, Royal Kofi Asante was boots on the ground, very effective in Accra. But once he had to relocate to Techiman, it kind of affected our momentum a bit. So these are my initial observations on how come the Constitution did not, or was not used, or is not being used. I may be wrong. The floor is open. Give thanks.
Quick one. Is it very difficult or too difficult to tell someone to, I don't want to put it nicely, to shut up if they're using abusive language? You put it diplomatically. You can tell them straight up, to look, these are the consequences, and if you do it again, you're out, whether it's suspension or whatever? Is it very difficult? And yeah, tell us
No.
something
It's not
about that.
difficult at all. It's not
Okay.
difficult at all. It's only that you see, sometimes by the time you get to the platform to see something, it's either things have gone a certain way, you know, and that is where I will say that going forward, and I have to know that there are certain things as leaders of the organization we shouldn't do, we shouldn't engage in. We shouldn't allow certain conversations or to be drawn into certain conversations. In the Ghana language, there's a saying, Kesi Safojo in Todia, when you swore. That means if a ghost meets you and wants to shake your hand, you withdraw your hand,
Mm.
you know. So putting it more direct, telling somebody to shut up or behave themselves is totally in line, you know. It's something that, you know, should be done when it needs to be done.
One gets a sense
That's
that the
what I
person,
think.
whoever is engaging in that behavior, forgets that there are rules against that. So there's some kind of orientation that has to happen, you know, because maybe if they remembered what you're saying right now, you know, like the possibility of being shut down, I think maybe they wouldn't. And then the authority with which they are getting shut down, you know, as a fine, you know, because it becomes like something that they want to dispute. Like, why are you stopping me? Right. So I'm just saying that there's an orientation question in there, don't you think? You think the person is intentionally like saying I don't care about the rules, I'm doing whatever, you know, I want.
Can I make a quick contribution, please?
Yes, sir.
All right. Give thanks. So I think that we're probably looking at this as we're looking at it partially. Let me just say that way, because if it's a WhatsApp platform, for instance, that we're talking about, then we're talking about that group of people on the WhatsApp platform. But if we're talking about general rules, then are we saying that if somebody says something on the WhatsApp platform and you're going to tell them to shut it up, if that person doesn't say it on a WhatsApp platform, you still have that same authority and reach to ask them to shut it up?
Very
Right.
interesting. Very
Yes,
interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
that's how I'm looking at it, because the WhatsApp platform is almost like voluntary. I don't think the WhatsApp platform represents all Rastafari, even in Ghana, by any stretch. So it's easy to control the people on the WhatsApp platform. It's easy to kick them off the WhatsApp platform, etc. But if you're talking about real authority to get people to fall in line, so to speak, right? And again, we have to observe that Rastafari, by nature, we're not people who like to be whipped in line like that. To be honest with you, most Rastafari that I know are very independent minded, and what you may see as something that they are saying different, maybe something that they may be very convicted about. I've seen some of this banter on the WhatsApp platform, for instance. I've seen people expressing very strong opinions, even about other people, and it's very hard to get in the middle of that. So it's a very difficult task. I don't envy Bosco at all, and I don't know if it's his sole responsibility to ask people to shut up. I think it should be our collective responsibility to set a collective standard that, hey, listen, this is what it is, and this is how it's supposed to be. Because then, otherwise, we're going to be to limit the authority of the president or the chair of the Rastafari Council to the people on the platform, which I don't think should be the case at all. And in connection with that, let me also say it's about time that we make our outreach stronger, so that when we speak or when we put out anything, it's representing Rastafari everywhere in the country or across the continent, as we are seeking to do, right? Rather than the small group of people who have committed to be on the platform, who may be even the group of people who have identified as under the banner of the Rastafari Council. I don't think it's marketed enough. I don't think that the RCG is marketed enough nationwide for its membership to be fully, for it to achieve its full potential in terms of membership. So just a few words for now. I have some further questions down the line, but I don't want to take too long at a stretch. So I'll get some reactions and then further down the line. Bosco, I have some couple questions for you, if that is.
So I believe Jabelovet's questions and contributions are not exclusively to Ayman, since he said that he has some questions specifically for me. So I think ones and ones can chime in on this, because that's one of the reasons why we need a functional complaints and grievances committee. If you ask me, the current composition of the committee, or the proposed composition, which is the chairperson, administrator, and PR person, needs to be looked at. Usually when it comes to issues of conflict and things, in African tradition, we say ayabi yomoe, in Akan they say bisabrewa. So obviously the Women's Commission has to be in there, and it can be a channel where grievances can be addressed. So for example, something can arise on the platform, and an aggrieved person should say, look, I will not engage. I will rather channel this grievance to the Complaints and Grievances Committee to address, instead of escalating on the platform. So the floor is open. We can ponder over this. Give thanks.
Again, if I may quickly, I think that strengthening the pillars, right, that holds up the RCG itself, strengthening those pillars is what's going to make it function well. Because first of all, for anybody to want to be part of anything, there should be an attracting factor, right? So even as Rastafari, is it every Rastafari that wants to be part of the Rastafari Council, first of all? Okay, and then what are the benefits of being in that council? All of that. So all that considered, then you see that, do you lose something if sanctions are applied against you? Because if you're a part of something where you really don't lose anything if someone says, hey, shut up, or what? So there should be, to me, those things should be strengthened. It should be, for instance, all the things that we keep talking about every day, right? The cooperatives, all these things, if they're all in place, functioning properly, we know that, oh, this is something to be, I'm part of, even if I'm not benefiting from it, as in I'm drawing any income or whatever from it, I'm actually part of building something. So I have my signature on that. And that's, to most of the people that I know are part of this thing, is enough remuneration, right? So if you are going to be kicked out of that team of excellent people working on this thing and leaving a mark, you don't want that, right? You would like to sit up and do what you do. But if it's kind of like loose, and I also, like I say, I don't envy Bosco. I don't envy you at all, because again, we're also coming from, even though it's a Rastafari Council, we all know that there are some little differences here and there and stuff like that. And some of these frictions arise out of that. So then you, as the, moderator, so to speak, how do you handle that? Because you're dealing with people who have slightly different nuances when it comes to ideology and philosophy and all these things about their particular mansions. And then there is a kind of, I can name a very common one, diet, for instance, or liberty still, the food we eat and everything. right? If for instance, two brethren or sistren or a brethren and a sistren are clashing over something like that, it becomes a very sore point. It becomes something that you cannot easily deal with. And this is where I go back to something that Bosco said about the Bisabrewa. The Abrewa committee should be there, right? Among I think we can identify some individuals, elders, that collectively we all see as, oh, wait there. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a committee of that nature, it's kind of like our own little council of state kind of thing, whereby if your matter comes, it doesn't have to pass through even the executive all the time, right? But there's a council which is eminent. Rasi said, empresses, everybody knows, say, if this person has no interest in telling you, say, you are wrong when you are right, or you are right when you're wrong, right? So when an issue comes and you're trying we can take it there as a, something like of that nature. But really and truly, you want to avoid being punitive. I think my little opinion be that the structure should be there to punish, but you want to avoid being punitive, especially if the impact or the effect of your sanctions may not be too tangible to achieve some type of results. Give thanks. But Bosco, again, let me add my question to that as well. So I heard you talk about raising funds and stuff like that. I want to know. Well, I think we've spoken about this before, but raising funds and also connecting with people who we are looking at possibly helping in terms of their financing and everything. I'm very sure that we are factored into the whole thing, the fact that we would not love to be subservient to any such organization in whatsoever form, right? Because we all know that if someone starts pulling out money, sometimes, not all the time, we know there are philanthropic organizations who may easily, give you something without anything, any mad interest over there and stuff like that. But I hope that we have considered that, because even just the association could become problematic sometimes.
Absolutely. You're making a very important point. Yeah.
If that's.
Yes. So it means, as a matter of principle, you know where you go, right?
So I believe what you call it, Jabeloved is suggesting is that possibly in the mandate for the Economics Commission, we be explicit that we be clear on the source of funding, so that our financiers should not have objectives that are contrary to our principles and values. Or
yes,
the funds should not be towards any activities that would be contrary to our principles and values, because there's quite some money available for whatever you want to do. And so if we are guided by a cardinal principle that this is the line we will not cross to get funding to do A, B, C, D, maybe it can be considered and then added to the mandate of the Economics Commission.
Definitely. I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention the suggestion that we consider adding a council of elders to the governance structure of the council.
That's exactly what I was getting at, Bosco, with the eminent elders that I was talking about. That's exactly what I'm getting. I think it's a very good point. And that also is in line with our tradition as Africans, right? We show respect to our elders. When something is happening, we ask our elders who have experience, you know. So I think it's in the right place to do that.
Sure.
Right.
So what's necessary to do that? What are the challenges in doing that, Manche? I mean, how difficult is it to set it up?
It would be to incorporate it in the proposed constitution that, as part of the governance structure, we have a council of elders made up of maybe a number, and then that it's either their tenure is fixed to the tenure of the executive council, or their tenure could be what you call it, whether a lifetime. I mean, but we could look at those things because there are certain elders who, I mean, until they die, nobody's going to take their wisdom from them and things like that. So we could consider those things. Something that, just as we're talking, came through my mind is the issue of patrons. So recently, the Musicians Union of Ghana, we visited the Gamanche. He's a musician. Jabilove, I bet you there, you know him.
Yeah, he's my classmate from primary school.
Good. So the union decided to make him our chief patron. So just as we were talking, and we're talking about Council of Elders, I wanted to put it forward so that ones and ones consider the merits and the demerits of having patrons for the Rastafari Council Ghana.
It's something I will support very much. And yes, it's something I would support very much, because also it kind of demystifies some of the negative imagery that has been put on Rastafari, right? Because imagine if the Gamanche, or if any chief for that matter, is a patron of the Rastafari Council, if some other, eminent people that we know in the community are patrons of the Rastafari Council, it says something, right? It definitely says something. And sometimes some of the things it will say, it would take us a lot more to say it ourselves. So it's something that I'll definitely endorse as well. And to tell you the truth, these chiefs have high regard for INI. High regard, I'm telling you. And I never stopped telling the story of the first time I met Dotun for the Asante himself. We went to his private residence, shortly after he had become the king. And we were working at Fonton from at the other time with Rastafari, blessed memory, So we went to his home as a team, the whole team, Fonton from TV. We went to go visit. And he came out, started, greeting us, nodded at everybody. And when he got to where me and Kofi were, he stopped. And then he asked us, Namuhuti saying, right? That happened twice. 2 times we visited. Every time he stopped where we were standing and asked, Namuhuti saying. So these people, they have high regard for us. Don't let's lose sight of that. But sometimes we have to make the gesture. We have to step forward and say, hey, this is us, this is our constitution, this is what we want to do. This is Jerry Rawlings was president. He associated with Diana and gave us land, Abby. So it's something that we have to definitely take a look at, for sure.
Give thanks.
And Bosco, the other question I wanted to ask you, by the way, I just remembered, is if what you mentioned government, like the synergy between INI and government and things like that. How is that going, and what department, what body within the structure of the council is responsible for that, and how are we doing with that?
Good. So let me take it back to conference last year. Last year was the election year. I know politicians, they are always on the prowl. So fortunately for us, when we invited the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs at the time, Asamoah Boateng, he actually came to conference and he made he made a 5,000 CD donation. The idea was to continue engaging with them, but then the government changed. So this year we wrote to the same ministry, and we also invited the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, which we deal with more directly. And there was a representation from that ministry, from the Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts Ministry. But we didn't get a representation from the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Ministry. Now, these are engagements that we need to, as it were, have. Like I said earlier, before Royal Kofi Asante relocated to Techiman, he was very effective with pursuing some of these engagements. And then for a while, following his move to Techiman, Rasmauli was also playing the role, but as I indicated, he's also gone to Winneba. He's on campus. But there's a brother who appears very active. He was the one that Royal Kofi nominated to represent the council at the just ended series of CASI engagements. And I believe Royal is looking at the report Jason brought, and then he will put it together and share it with the executives. But there's that youth, and he appears to be, to be ready to do some of the work the admin and the organizer were doing. I don't know if Jabilove, that answers your question.
It kind of does, but I was more looking at what body within that structure. So because when you say we wrote to, who wrote to? Is it the chairman himself wrote to, or is there a commission within that structure that's responsible for government engagement? Excuse me. Because
okay, so
I
currently,
think it's one area where we are not very well coordinated. In personal observation,
and that's a fact, because as I indicated previously, Royal was in Accra, so it was relatively easier to engage and do some of these legworks of engaging
exactly, that's
with
the
them.
key word, legwork. But in this
Yeah.
time where a lot of the work can be finger work, right?
Yeah.
You can actually, start looking at that also, because sometimes all you really need to do is to send an email, and that should be like what should be done. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The only thing is that with some of these people, is rather unfortunate. They hardly check their mails. I mean, can you believe my news editor was telling me the other day that he's forgotten his passwords. So his 2 emails, he's not using them. He's using WhatsApp, and for some people. It's a rather unfortunate situation. However, what we will do is we will adopt the multi-pronged approach to engaging with these government institutions to ensure that, for instance, so now we have this letter. What we will do is we will publish the letter and then send a physical copy to the Gambian High Commission in Ghana. So we'll be using a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, that still leaves a certain part of my question unanswered, and I hope your next input will just clear that for me, and I'll leave you alone, please.
No, bring it on, because maybe it slipped my mind. What's the last question?
Okay, so is there a particular commission? If not, can we have a commission that is dedicated to engaging with government and media? Let's combine these two, the government and the media. If you have a commission in the structure which is dedicated to, because here it is, every now and then we are called to something whimsical, something stupid that somebody said in the media that we have to react to. It's always a knee-jerk reaction. If somebody doesn't see it among us and share it and somebody sees it or whatever, that's that, right? Or something major happens and most major bodies are commenting. The president is installed as a new president. Most organizations, associations are congratulating the president, stuff like that, making themselves visible, right? For engagement, things like that. We lose out on, we miss out on those things. You know what I'm saying? So if we have a body for that, that's what they're doing. They know the calendar. They know that, okay, at this point, we're supposed to issue a statement. At this point, even if we're not expecting it and something happens, like for instance, Nana Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings has passed. Nana Kunedu is the wife of Jerry Rawlings, who we all know is very instrumental in the history of the Rastafari Council of Ghana. The very least we can do is issue a statement of condolence, if you ask me. But you see, these things, if we don't have a body that's dedicated to that, then it always becomes knee-jerk. Oh, something happened. Oh, I know. Then we go do them. Sometimes I'll tell you something, Bosco. I run a media house myself. Right now, as we speak, we are speaking live on my platform. But sometimes I see statements published by the Rastafari Council. That's news to me, you know. So all I'm saying is, if we have a dedicated body that is in charge of these things, I believe we'll have a more coordinated and a more respectable approach. And that's also going to strengthen the body itself. It's going to ease you up to focus on the more executive and administrative stuff that you need to do. And, leave these things to somebody else or some other people or whatever body is responsible for that to deal with. They see something, they react, they draft something, they show it to you, you endorse it. Oh, okay, all right, so let's put it out. It has the approval of the chair or, whatever. Boom, boom, bam. It's out. Distributed to all media houses in the proper format so that once Joy FM is reacting to it, UTV is also reacting to it. They're all hearing that Rastafari are saying that it's stupid to jail people for 10 years for ganja, unanimously, So I think it's important that we have that body in that structure to deal with the two-pronged things, the government engagement and also media engagement. Give thanks.
So, what we currently have is a PR section, and I believe, like you're rightly saying, it's not being very proactive, and that's one of the things that the proposed constitution seeks to address. It clearly says that we have to be a bit more proactive. In the new constitution, I'll say it's two commissions that will have this responsibility. The Advocacy Commission, which is largely mandated to engage with government and government and other stakeholders, as the case may be. And then the PR Directorate, that's the PR committee, the publicity committee, which is to manage RCG's public image and communications. So they are to collaborate with the Advocacy Commission on public presentations. And that's one of the things that I would humbly like to suggest, that going forward, once you step up that, look, I'm going to do this, even if Mambu lays you into saying, yes, I'll do this. Once you accept that this is what you're going to do, let's ensure that, because if you ask me, the manpower resources we have, if you look at the PR and communications space, I shouldn't be wanting, because
Yeah,
we
I
have
agree.
ones and ones who are on the case. So for me, between now and March next year, when we're gonna have the next conference, some of the things we need to do is fine tune the proposal, take all these suggestions on board, and then look at how we will transition from the current to the new constitution, and then work out the background, how do you call it, documentation, and rules and regulations and whatever, plans for the various committees and commissions, so that, for example, the PR commission should have an elaborate calendar which is saying these are the points at which we're going to make intervention, apart from whatever comes up on the landscape that we need to respond to or address, so that once we go to Kumasi and leave Kumasi, if we instate a new leadership or whatever we do, whoever, so advocacy, yes, then this is the mandate. Let me execute it to the best of my ability. PR, it shouldn't be like seat warming, we love the title, but not the responsibility.
Manche,
Give them.
quick one.
Yeah.
So, much far smaller, think a lot of things will happen between now and then. So what are we doing between now and then?
So, like I said earlier, the current constitution, we've been functioning it in bits and pieces. Like like the average Christian, they take the Bible and they pick and choose which parts to work with. Per the current constitution, the amendment proposal, I think that is how I should put it. The amendment procedure is that a proposal be given to the council, and then the amendment is done by 2/3 majority of the general council, and council members can exercise proxy voting. So the general council would be like the how do you say, the conference. Now, beyond that, we could say, how do we want to outdoor or bring this new one into being? Now, what this new constitution proposes by way of amendment is a simple, proposal to the executive committee. They discuss and vote on it, and then 2/3 majority of that committee is clear to pass the amendment. You know what I mean? So my reading of this is that it's a simpler process to do. So it is two things. It is either take all these contributions and suggestions on board, and then reshare the reviewed document based on all these contributions, and then we can have a conversation of that document. Once we do that, then we can say, okay, do we initiate this process, which is the new process of amendment, or what? And these are my thoughts. Give thanks. Seven, I don't know if my long answer was okay for you.
It was great. It was great. It's just that Monday thing say, so we're talking about taking some steps, right? But let's say tomorrow something come before act on right now, right? Before have some tentative, like approach, we're not gonna say we go wait till, which could be done without necessarily, confirming people that approve of for what we have, right? So that's what I'm trying to think about. Say, if right now, if we move forward like we want to move forward as a body, where it be functional, right? So what we go fit do right now? That's why they try to figure out. Say, based on your experience, what you think that we go fit do right now? Like right now, we say PR and advocacy for work together. I think it's in the thing. What thing you think that we go fit do? We go fit just pass words. Say, look, right now, let's get this going seriously. Who are they in charge of PR? Is he on the ball? Yes. No, we tell him that get on the ball because of this. If we realize that the person will be the right person fit, maybe we start immediately doing something about it. I think because we have a shortage of manpower, I think people fit to operate in other areas too. Doubling and all that. I know it can be draining. And it got me thinking about. I would love to hear your thoughts on the women. I have the Yomo part. And the fact that the women have to be an integral part of everything we do. Where at least a little bit man here from the side, we say the women, they say they're reluctant to combine their energies because they feel they're often left out. And I wonder how that sounds to you, or how that reads from where you sit, because I mean, like you say, if they're on board, the thing becomes meaningful. If not, it's like we're just waiting for something to happen, So Mancha, please tell us what you think about getting the women on board, specific strategies, and then how to get something going, something tentative until March.
One of the first things we can do is do a roll call of who's actually doing what right now. Do you understand? So currently, even looking at the existing committees and executive, it would be to say, okay, these positions on the executive committee, are they occupied? Who are there, or who is there occupying what position? Then we look at the commissions, the various commissions, who is currently there, which commissions are vacant. And then based on that, we can look at the new proposed commissions. For example, the role of banking and fundraising has been integrated into the Economic Commission. Then we can say, okay, how do we do that transition? For example, I know that the banking area has their treasurer, that is Rough Ringo, so how do we transition that into the Economics Commission and things like that? So once we do that basic mapping, then we can look at the realignment and say, okay, for PR and advocacy, these are the persons who are there now. And then, like you asked, are they the people to take it forward? Yes, no. If no, what can we do to ensure that they have the capacity to do that? Who else can we add to and beef up? Because one of the challenges currently appears to be manpower, human resources. Ones who are ready to volunteer their time and their resources you know. So for me, if you ask me, one of the first steps is for Royal, the administrator, to do this mapping and say, okay, chairman, vice treasurer, PR, this. Okay, we have these people. We do not have these. Then you look at the commissions. Then once we conduct that exercise, I believe we'll be ready to go to the next stage and say, okay, so let's get advocacy and PR to start working. Just like the speed with which we got the letter for the Gambians, I believe the same way by close of day tomorrow, a message for Nana Konedu should be ready. And then we can maintain the momentum and continue. Give thanks.
What about our sisters, the women?
Yes. So the Women's Commission, led by what you call it, Empress Safi, they've been doing quite some engagements. What I believe strongly is that she's ready to do the work. I believe she's one of the best persons for that role. It would be to strengthen the support, or to, so that even for executive meetings or occasions like this where she cannot be available, we should have a strong representation from the sistering, give thanks.
And Bosco, quick one. I would like to also contribute that if we say we're really considering Rastafari, there is a lot of Rastas and empresses who may not be there currently in Ghana, but may be able to handle some of the work so that you don't get overwhelmed. So Ras Kofi doesn't get overwhelmed. Ras Kofi, it looks like we're asking a bit too much of him, because just what you've laid out right now, if we say we're going to leave Ras Kofi alone to do all of that, that's way too much, if you ask me. Right? He has to single-handedly practically scout talent to man the whole structure. So I think
No. Listen,
Mhm.
Jabilove, what I meant is that he can furnish us with the information saying the executives, these are the names we have. These are the comments. These guys are or these ones are functional. These ones are either MI, missing in action, absent without leave, or this thing. So that means these are gaps we need to. And then once we have that information collectively, we can make what you call a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that clears it up for me. But all the same, I think that the larger point I was making is that there may be untapped talent, right? Which is that there are a lot of races who may not be in Ghana currently, but may be available to help with some of the work. And some of the work may not be leg work. It may be work that, can be accomplished without being there in the present. I mean, to be physically present and things like that. So I just needed to contribute that as well.
Certainly, because we cannot do this if we say we're going to use just home-based talent. The work is too big. And I mean, in certain areas, we need the expertise and capacities of the item in the diaspora. So, and give thanks, technology has made it such that apart from certain times, a physical presence may not be mandatory. You know what I mean? Give thanks.
Give thanks. Yes, right. Yeah, we give thanks for the reasoning. Very helpful. I believe one of the ways to address some of the issues raised is a regular monthly meeting which we used to have, which is currently not ongoing for various reasons. So if this conversation or reasoning will conclude on, I wanted to propose the first Sunday of the week, because our reasonings, the second Sunday and I think the last Sunday of the week, we use it for the Rastafari reasoning, and the third Sunday is TTI monthly meeting. And so that leaves us with the first Sunday of the month. I trust we should be able to continue such conversations on a monthly basis as executive committee or general assembly of RCG. That way, we, at least on monthly basis, we can review our work or reassign duties to people who have not taken up duties. And so, yes, the mention of Jasan, he's one person I'd wanted to, before this meeting, I'd wanted to propose to Daddy B to consider his inclusion into the executive committee, because he currently is that soldier that we can readily call to attend to anything on our behalf. And I believe when he's on the executive platform, he observes and reads the ongoing conversation. He can position himself well to at all times help with the executive work. I also like to say that occasionally I come to Accra, but sometimes the duties that brings me to Accra requires me not to call Daddy B or to alert Daddy B, because I know an RCG duty may sometimes. That is to say, I can plan for some of the things that we used to do, so that maybe on a monthly or regularly, if with the, especially with the issue of government engagement, and because it's one thing that is very necessary. Sometimes the email is good, but even if you send email, you need to do follow-ups. And that also suggests that our work requires us to do constant recruitment, like to look out for youth. Currently, Daddy B connected me with Rastaichi, and he's another person I'm also hoping that he can be on board fully to support with the work. So I think two things: either we focus on individual Rastafari, or initially when I joined the council was more of the mansions that availed their members to function as executive members. Maybe there may be the need to revisit that. Just as Jah Beloved is suggesting, we look for members and executive members abroad, which I think is very laudable. I also think that within the existing mansions, not just the mansions, that organizations that affiliate to RCG, we should look out for some members to come take duties in the executive committee or the other commissions or committees, because I trust the existence of these organizations indicates there are people running such organizations. So if a member or two from each registered or recognized Rastafari mansion organization will contribute some members to the executive body of the council, I think that would limit the pressure on the few and will also help address the manpower need. So in brief, this is what I wanted to contribute to the discussion. Thank you.
Give thanks. And so, like we indicated, let's get the list of current executives and current commissions and commissioners. Let's see where we have gaps, and then we can look at populating those gaps. And then, yeah, you can go ahead and have what you call it, Jason on the platform. There's another youth, Adanobi Ras. You remember he was at the I think 2 years ago, Aif organized something. We came to play the bingi there.
Yes, please. Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's another youth.
I remember the brother. He's also very active in most of our functions. Yeah, I see him almost in every the last conference, all the 2 conferences. So
That's
he's
right.
very positive too. So his inclusion will help. Give thanks.
So if I may say, by way of going forward, since our time is winding up, I think first thing is to update the document with all these feedback we've gotten. Then second is to get the list of current executives and commissions. And then the third would be to do the alignment and populate these, what you call it. Then we can have like a review session where we look at the updated document and things. Then I believe in that session, we would be in a position to say, okay, let us adapt this based on the amendment procedure as we have it here, and then take it to conference in March. My suggestions.
Very well noted, my lord.
Like a plan to me. That sounds like a plan.
All right. So, Royal.
Yes, my lord. So with the review session, can we have another RCG Constitution 2 meeting next reasoning? That will be in 2 weeks' time. And I'm sure within that time, we may have done all these assignments. I'm asking.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And if you ask me, that would be timely. That would be the way to go.
Give thanks.
And also, before all this is done, there will still be, as 7 Fireside said, there'll still be things that would need to be attended to, right? So if we can all be on the lookout for things that we may be able to just bring our collective attention to, to deal with together until we have the substantive bodies working on those things. Let's all be vigilant about those things this time.
If I may say, Jabilove, you dear, like yesterday, you've been drafted onto the PR thing. Because so far, it's Jamal Com who is supposed to be leading the PR initiative, but it seems it always falls back on Kofi Asante and Seven. So please, if you can quickly hop on board and, so that as things appear on the horizon, we can promptly deal with them. Give thanks.
I'll be honored to assist with that, definitely. It's something I'll definitely love to. As and when my inputs and my energies are required, I'll definitely be happy to be part of the team.
All right. So Royal, before you bring the curtain down, I think we would like to invite ones and ones to throw in their final words, so that it's not like just me, Beloved, and Seven talking, and then you giving the background vocals.
Well, give thanks. I just want to say something regarding the review of the Constitution. I think personally, and also from experience, I think that 2 hours is kind of short for such an activity to take place. I think we're gonna need more time than that, and so maybe we should think about a time where we can block some more time and have a Zoom session where we are committed to staying the whole time and ironing out any kind of loose ends that may be in there so that the final product is tight. That is my suggestion. I also well, I'll hold back for the other one for right now, but I think that yeah, if we can look at it along those lines, is a suggestion. But I think
It's
it's a suggestion.
important. No, it's very important. So
I think so too.
maybe let's hear what people think, because we're going to block it out next time we meet, right? Block out a longer session if it's going to work for the rest of us. It's a very important thing you're saying, Prof.
Yes, Ras. So that suggests the next reason will be quite extensive. We'll go beyond our normal 2 hours, as much time as it will take. I gather that is the suggestion on board at the moment. So that the next reasoning will look keenly at the Constitution and give it enough time as Prof is suggesting. Or is the suggestion that we should have a particular session among a few people to really look at the Constitution extensively, or we are suggesting that the next reasoning the next reasoning be the reasoning that we will take a look at the Constitution, but we should extend the time beyond the 2 hour frame. I see clarity.
I think that's a great question, but I think that from where I stand, I will lean more towards the first interpretation. That be say, I block a time, which is not necessarily a time of our, bi-weekly or bi-weekly RCG sessions. This is a separate time just devoted to the Constitution, and spend that time looking at that Constitution. And I think that between now and that time, maybe some of the suggestions that have been made today can be put forward in a form of a draft, and then once we meet, we go fit, take each item and look at what the item is asking and also the implications of that particular item, right? And even the practicality, because I like some of the things we're adding here, but at the same time, when I hear like a economics commission, I think it's a great idea. But then also the thing say, wait a minute, who's going to be on the economics commission, right? Who are there any volunteers yet? Is this a hope, or is this something that we can practicalize, once the Constitution is launched, and or is it something that maybe we may need to think about holding off until we're ready? And I think that if I'm not mistaken, I'm not on the ground, so to speak, but at the same time, the commissions, from listening to the conversation, even the PR commission or whatever, they seem to be there in name. They seem to have people who have been assigned to it, but also it seems that somehow, those people may not necessarily be active in carrying out those kind of duties. So we do need active people, and I'll even say that if ones and ones cannot be, then they should just step aside for those who can actively engage, take the mantle. Also, I think that as we talk about Constitution, I think one of the things that I've been hammering for the longest time is outreach, right? What kind of outreach are we doing, both within the Rastafari community and also even outside the Rastafari community? I don't see a lot of youths, even when we have our lecture series coming on, very rarely. And then also like sisters, right? And I know say sometimes when people say youth in Ghana, it mean a whole lot of things, because I see 45-year-old people who are calling themselves youths, and and this is real, right? So, I'm seriously, make we consider that, as a very important part of whatever final Constitution we could make. What outreach are we making to the youths in particular? Because if we're not doing that, then there are implications for that as well. For in terms of the survival of Rastafari, among I, the Ghanaian people. So I think some considerations will need to be made in that regard as well. But this is, and I'm sure that other things are going to come up. That's why I think that if we can block at least, I would say maybe 3 hours on a day that will be convenient for ones and ones, and then through Zoom we can all sit down. Maybe that day we just everybody turn up their camera or whatever, ready just to talk, you know, discuss, iron things out, straighten things, making sure that everything that we are putting in there is gonna work both in the short term and long term for our collective benefit. So, those are some things that I think that, yeah, we can think about and also see how we can implement it. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Ras. I think this is very laudable, and I heard Seven Fireside also mention that it's good. But I wanted to find out if there is any proposal for time that you want to make, because as urgent as it is, if we can set a date and time at this reasoning, we'll share the notification out and then convene members for the set time so that we can have this reasoning right before the next reasoning.
True. So I think that in terms of time, we're going to look at it two ways. I think though that I don't know if you already have something slated for the next 2 weeks RCG lecture series, but if there is nothing yet, maybe instead of putting out an advert that we're going to meet to discuss this topic, right? We can block it so that maybe if we can all do like an hour earlier. So instead of 7 p.m. in Ghana, if we can do 6 p.m. in Ghana and like 1 o'clock in the Midwest and the Southern United States kind of regions, etc., then maybe that 1 hour plus the regular 2 hours go fit do, so that the next time is just a focus on the Constitution, and that we all go fit walk away. Like I, for instance, I have not read a Constitution, but if we give ourselves homework today, say, okay, everybody read a Constitution, and come in with questions, with comments, with ideas for that particular session, then that'd be something that we go fit all agree on before we leave. And even if one of us also can even volunteer, maybe to put an announcement, to remind everybody to do that kind of thing before we meet, that we can do that as well. So, I think that because a lot of people have already blocked Sunday as a time that they attend RCG meetings, in terms of convenience, it may be more convenient to work around that time frame as opposed to saying, a different time, which then people may have to scramble around to figure out how that could fit into their schedule. So proposal here being maybe looking at a time like this, a Sunday, maybe the next 2 weeks, Sunday or whatever, and then coming an hour earlier and working to the end of the 3 hour period and see what we can accomplish within that time. Give thanks.
I completely agree. The only part that I don't agree with, don't mind me on that because it's kind of selfish, is that I may not be able to join an hour earlier because of our weekly live stream. But if I'm not, still the majority of the people will be there and I can join later on. Or alternatively, we can maybe push it an hour later if it's not too much.
Absolutely. It was just suggested, right? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But other than that, I think it's a brilliant idea. We already logged in on Sundays for most of us. So it will be very easy to schedule around that rather than try to figure out a whole new, itinerary for ourselves and all that. Yeah, man. Give thanks.
True. And so, yeah, absolutely. What like I wanted to say was, either an hour earlier or an hour later is fine. It's just that,
Yeah.
having a little bit more
Yes.
time than the 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Rastafari.
Selassie, hi.
Yes, so we give thanks. So if there is no objection, we agree that next reasoning, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., we'll do a constitutional review and take a look at the reviewed document that will be presented, and also have a look at some of the requests that be made. That is the list of current executives and commissions, and also the need to align and populate the committees. So with that being said, if there are no further inputs, comments, I invite Daddy B to give us his closing remarks. But I would like to find out first, are there any other comments or questions before he does that?
Just one quick one. Just if anybody, while
Please.
people to read a thing, if they think of any modifications, or they think say maybe some of the commissions know here, or they go fit blend some too, whatever, any kind of ideas, possibilities for people to think about, maybe if we consider them and put them on board when we meet next time.
Yes, my lord. So please, is there any other comment? Ja, beloved.
No,
Before...
I don't know. Give thanks.
All right, my lord. So please, Daddy B, can you help us with your closing remarks?
All right. So give thanks for this opportunity to have this conversation on the proposed constitution. Over the next 2 weeks, I hope and pray that we can all do these things. That is, get a current list of executives and commissions, do the updates to the constitution, so that when we meet, we'll have a very fruitful conversation where by the time we close, we can say, yes, this is the new look constitution, which will capture our aspirations going forward as Rastafari people. Give thanks.
Sir, give thanks, Rastafari. So please, next 2 weeks, 8th November, we'll reconvene to have the constitutional review. So the constitution is on the platform. If anybody doesn't have it, just PM me, I can share with you. With that being said, we give thanks to you all for staying and sharing your wisdom for the reasoning to continue. We hope subsequently, next 2 weeks, we'll reconvene again. Thank you all. Rastafari.
Selassie, give thanks.
All right. And that was the bi-weekly lecture from the Rastafari Council of Ghana Educational Community this week.